Commander Jake Morrison stood at the observation deck of Earth Defense Station Liberty, watching the stars through the massive glass window. The station floated far beyond Pluto, at the edge of human space. It was quiet out here, peaceful even. Jake had been stationed here for 3 years and nothing exciting ever happened. Ships came and went, carrying supplies between Earth and the outer colonies. Trade vessels moved slowly through the dark. Everything was normal. Then the alarm started, screaming. Jake ran to the control room where his crew was already at their stations. Lieutenant Ben Parker was staring at his screen with wide eyes. "Commander, you need to see this," he said, his voice shaking. Jake looked at the display and felt his heart stop. Dozens of massive ships were appearing out of nowhere, materializing, from hyperspace like ghosts becoming real. These were not human ships, they were huge, dark, and covered in strange symbols that glowed with purple light. "How many?" Jake asked. 57 ships, sir." "No, wait. More are coming." Ben's fingers moved quickly over his controls. 73 now. They're still appearing. Jake had never seen ships this big. The largest human vessel was maybe 300 meters long. These alien ships looked like they were over 2 kilometers each. They moved in perfect formation like a school of metal fish swimming through space. "Get me Admiral Carter." Now. The screen flickered and Admiral Lisa Carter's face appeared. She was on Earth, in the defense headquarters buried deep under the Rocky Mountains. Her gray hair was pulled back tight, and her blue eyes were sharp and focused. Lisa had fought in the Mars Colony War 20 years ago. She was the best military mind humanity had. "Jake, what's the situation?" she asked. "Unknown. Alien fleet, ma'am. Nearly 80 ships, they're massive. Nothing like anything we've ever seen." Lisa's expression didn't change, but Jake could see the worry in her eyes. "Any communication attempts?" "Not yet, ma'am. They're just sitting there, watching us." Before Lisa could respond, the communication board lit up. A signal was coming from the alien fleet. Jake looked at his communications officer, Sergeant Amy Watson. She was young, maybe 25, with red hair and freckles. Her hands were shaking as she worked. "It's coming through on multiple frequencies," Amy said. "They want to talk." "Put it through," Jake ordered. The screen changed, and Jake found himself looking at something that made his blood run cold. The alien was tall, maybe 8 feet, with dark green scales covering its body. Its eyes were yellow and cold, like a snake's eyes. It wore what looked like military armor covered in medals and symbols. "I am High Chancellor Vextar of the Galactic Hegemony," the creature said. Its voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "I speak for the eternal empire that rules 3,000 worlds across this galaxy." Jake swallowed hard. 3,000 worlds. Humanity had barely colonized 20 planets. "I am Commander Morrison of Earth Defense. What do you want?" The alien's mouth opened, showing rows of sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. "We come with a generous offer for your species. Your world, Earth, will join the hegemony as a protected planet. You will provide soldiers for our armies and resources for our empire. In return, we will protect you from the dangers of space." "And if we refuse?" Jake asked, though he already knew he wouldn't like the answer. "Refusal is not an option that ends well," Vextar said calmly. "No species has ever successfully resisted the hegemony. We have conquered civilizations that were older and more advanced than yours. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. Your technology is like toys compared to ours." On another screen, Jake could see Admiral Carter talking quickly to her staff. Her face was grim. Behind her, President Helen Martinez had arrived. The president was a small woman with dark hair and kind eyes, but Jake had heard she was tougher than steel when she needed to be. "May I speak to your leader?" Vextar asked, noticing the president on the screen. President Martinez stepped forward. "I'm President Martinez. I speak for Earth and all human colonies." "Excellent. You seem intelligent for a primitive species. I will explain the process. Your people will be evaluated and assigned roles within the hegemony. The strongest will become soldiers. The smartest will become technicians and administrators. The rest will work in our factories and farms. Do not worry. We are not cruel masters. You will be fed and housed appropriately. Dr. Amanda Stone, Earth's top expert on alien life, had been listening from her laboratory. She was a quiet woman with brown hair and thick glasses, but her mind was sharp as a razor. She'd spent her whole life wondering what aliens might be like. Now she knew, and it terrified her. What happens to our culture? President Martinez asked. Our governments, our way of life. Those things are no longer necessary, Vextar replied. The hegemony provides all structure. Individual cultures only cause conflict and inefficiency. You will be much happier as part of something larger than yourselves. Jake watched President Martinez's face change. Her kind expression disappeared, replaced by something cold and hard. And if we refuse your generous offer? Then we will implement standard pacification procedures. Your military will be destroyed. Your leaders will be removed. Your population will be relocated to work camps where they can be properly educated about their new role in the galaxy. It is more difficult for everyone, but the end result is the same. The alien paused, studying the human faces on his screen. You should understand that resistance is pointless. We have been conquering worlds for over 1,000 years. We have destroyed species that had weapons you cannot imagine. Your planet has been observed for some time. We know your capabilities. You have nuclear weapons, crewed spacecraft, and basic energy shields. These things are not even considered real weapons by hegemony standards. President Martinez looked directly at the alien leader. High Chancellor Vexitar, I have an answer for you. I am pleased you are being reasonable. Our answer is no. We will not join your empire. We will not become your slaves. Earth belongs to humanity, and it will stay that way. The alien's expression didn't change, but his yellow eyes seemed to glow brighter. I am disappointed but not surprised. Primitive species often make emotional decisions instead of logical ones. Very well. You have 30 standard days to reconsider. After that, the integration fleet will arrive to begin pacification procedures. I suggest you use this time to prepare your people for their new lives. The screen went dark. The alien ships began moving, forming a defensive perimeter around the outer solar system. They weren't leaving. They were waiting. Jake looked at the tactical display. 87 alien warships now surrounded human space. Each one could probably destroy Earth's entire fleet single-handedly. Admiral, Jake said quietly, what do we do now? Lisa Carter's face was stone cold. Now we get ready for war. 21 days had passed since the aliens gave their ultimatum. Earth was not sitting quietly. Every military base on the planet was working around the clock. Factories that used to make cars and computers were now building weapons and ships. Every person who could hold a tool was helping prepare for war. Colonel Ben Parker stood on the observation deck of Armstrong Base, the military fortress built inside a crater on the moon. Through the reinforced glass, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue and white marble. It looked so peaceful from here, but Ben knew that in 9 days, that peace would be shattered. Colonel, the last of the quantum mines are in position, reported Captain Nicole Grant. She had just returned from a dangerous mission in her stealth ship called the Wolverine. Nicole was 32 years old with short black hair and sharp green eyes. She was the best pilot in the Earth fleet, able to fly her small ship through asteroid fields without being detected. Ben nodded. The quantum mines were Earth's secret weapon, developed by the brightest scientists working day and night. They were small devices that created tears in space when they exploded. The aliens had never seen anything like them, because no other species had been crazy enough to weaponize dimensional rifts. How many do we have deployed? Ben asked. 347 mines scattered throughout the outer system, Nicole replied. Major Collins finished the last deployment 6 hours ago. Major Steve Collins was in charge of the mine placement operation. He was a big man with a red beard who used to work on asteroid mining ships before the war started. Steve knew every rock and ice chunk in the outer solar system. If anyone could hide mines where the aliens wouldn't expect them, it was Steve. In the command center deep inside Armstrong Base, Admiral Lisa Carter was studying tactical displays with her staff. The alien fleet had grown larger over the past 3 weeks. More ships kept arriving through hyperspace. Earth's long-range sensors now counted over 200 massive warships surrounding the solar system. "They're not taking any chances," said Dr. Amanda Stone, who had been studying the alien formations. "This is 3 times the size of their first fleet." Amanda had spent the last 3 weeks analyzing every piece of data they could gather about the aliens. She discovered that the hegemony followed very predictable patterns. They always used the same attack formations. They always sent the same types of ships. They had conquered so many worlds, using the same methods that they never changed. Their tactics. That might be their weakness, Amanda had told the Admiral. They're so used to winning easily that they don't know how to adapt when something unexpected happens. The communication board suddenly came alive. The aliens were contacting Earth again. "Put it through," Admiral Carter ordered. The screen lit, up with the image of a different alien than before. This one was even larger than High Chancellor Vextar, with darker scales and more scars covering his armor. His yellow eyes burned with anger. "I am Fleet Commander Zakthul," the alien announced. "I have come to complete the integration of your world. Your 30 days are over. You will surrender immediately or face complete destruction." President Martinez appeared on screen from her bunker in Washington. She looked tired but determined. "Commander Zakthul, our answer remains the same. Earth will not surrender." The alien commander's mouth opened in what looked like a laugh. "Your bravery is admirable but foolish. Do you see my fleet? 212 warships, each capable of destroying your entire planet. Your resistance will last perhaps 1 hour. Then you'd better get started," the president replied calmly. Zakthul's eyes narrowed. "Very well. Begin the attack." The screen went dark. Across the solar system, alarm klaxons began sounding on every human ship and station. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Defiance, humanity's most advanced warship. It was still tiny compared to the alien ships, but it was fast and packed with every weapon Earth could build. Ryan was 40 years old with gray hair and calm blue eyes. He had commanded merchant ships before the war, but now he was leading humanity's main battle fleet. "All ships, this is Brooks, remember the plan. We're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to survive long enough to hurt them." The alien fleet began moving toward Earth. Their ships were massive and slow, but they bristled with weapons that could destroy entire cities with single shots. They moved in perfect formation, just like they had conquered thousands of other worlds. But as they passed through the outer solar system, something unexpected happened. Engineer Tony Clark was stationed on Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt, between Mars and Jupiter. Tony had spent the last 3 weeks modifying mining charges, the explosives used to break apart asteroids. But instead of making small controlled explosions, these charges were designed to shatter entire asteroids into clouds of high-speed debris. "Charges armed and ready," Tony reported to Armstrong Base. "Execute," Colonel Parker ordered. Tony pressed the detonator. Throughout the asteroid belt, hundreds of rocks exploded simultaneously. The alien fleet suddenly found themselves flying through clouds of metal and stone, moving at thousands of kilometers per hour. The alien shields absorbed most of the impacts, but the debris clouds made their sensors useless. They couldn't see what was coming next. Pilot Amy Watson led a squadron of 30 small fighters toward the alien fleet. Amy was the young communications officer from Defense Station Liberty, but she was also one of Earth's best pilots. Her fighter was smaller than the aliens' escape pods, but it was fast and heavily armed. "Dragon Squadron, follow my lead," Amy said into her radio. "Hit them fast and get out. Don't try to be heroes." The human fighters swarmed around the massive alien ships like angry insects. The aliens' main weapons were designed to fight other large ships. They couldn't track targets as small and fast as the human fighters. Amy's fighter screamed past the bridge of an alien warship, firing everything she had. Her missiles punched through the ship's shields and exploded against the hull. The damage was small, but it was the first time in 1,000 years that anyone had hurt a hegemony warship. More fighters attacked from different directions. The aliens tried to respond, but their weapons were too slow and their ships were too big. It was like trying to swat flies with hammers. Then Commander Morrison activated the quantum mines. The space around the alien fleet suddenly lit up with brilliant white explosions. But these weren't normal explosions. The quantum mines tore holes in reality itself. Several alien ships were caught in the dimensional rifts and simply vanished, pulled into spaces that didn't exist. For the first time in their species' history, the hegemony was confused. Their perfect formation broke apart as ship commanders tried to avoid the strange attacks they didn't understand. Fleet Commander Zach Thule stared at his tactical display in shock. He had lost 15 ships in the first 10 minutes of battle. This was impossible. Primitive species didn't fight like this. "Pull back to minimum safe distance," he ordered. "We need to analyze these new weapons." As the alien fleet retreated, cheers echoed through every human ship and station. They had done the impossible. They had made the mighty galactic hegemony run away. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would be back, and next time they would be ready. The alien fleet had pulled back to the edge of the solar system, but they were still there, watching, waiting, learning. Dr. Amanda Stone knew they wouldn't make the same mistakes twice. Amanda worked in her laboratory on Mars, surrounded by pieces of alien technology that human fighters had torn from damaged enemy ships. She had been studying the fragments for weeks, trying to understand how the hegemony built their empire. "I think I've found something important," she told Admiral Carter over the communication link. Amanda's brown hair was messy from working, long hours, and her glasses were smudged, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "What did you find?" the Admiral asked. "Their weakness isn't their technology, it's their thinking. Look at these ship designs." Amanda held up a piece of alien metal covered in circuits. "Everything is built the same way. Same materials, same patterns, same solutions to every problem. They've been using the same designs for hundreds of years." Amanda walked to her computer and pulled up thousands of files. "I've analyzed their attack patterns, their ship movements, even the way they talk. Everything follows rules. Strict rules that never change. They've become so used to winning that they've forgotten how to think differently." Admiral Carter leaned forward. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying they're predictable. If we can think of something they've never seen before, something that breaks their rules, they won't know how to respond." In another part of Mars colony, General Paul Hughes was meeting with his top commanders. Paul was a tall man with white hair and scars on his hands from the Mars colony war. He had been thinking about Amanda's research, and it had given him a dangerous idea. "We're going to take the fight to them," Paul announced to the room full of officers. Captain Ryan Brooks looked up from his tactical display. "Sir, we barely survived their first attack. How can we possibly attack them?" "Because they're not expecting it," Paul replied. "Every species they've conquered has waited for the aliens to attack them. No one has ever struck first at hegemony territory." Colonel Ben Parker studied the star maps on the wall. "What targets do you have in mind?" 3 outposts in nearby systems. Dr. Stone found their locations in the captured data files: a mining station, a communication hub, and a shipyard. "We're not going to try to destroy them. We're going to confuse them." Paul walked to the star map and pointed to 3 red dots. "Captain Brooks will lead the main strike force in the Defiance. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez will take the stealth ship Ghost for infiltration missions. The goal isn't to win battles. It's to make them wonder what we're planning." Sam Rodriguez was 28 years old with dark skin and quick hands. He had grown up fixing broken machines in the asteroid mines. Now he was one of the best stealth pilots in the Earth fleet. His ship Ghost was small and quiet, almost invisible to most sensors. "What kind of infiltration are we talking about?" Sam asked. Dr. Stone smiled. "The kind that will drive them crazy. We're going to sabotage their equipment in ways they won't notice right away. Small changes that will cause big problems later." 3. Days later, Sam Rodriguez guided the Ghost through hyperspace toward the first target. The mining station called Kepler 7 was built inside a large asteroid. It produced metals that the hegemony used to build their ships. The station's defenses were strong against large attacks, but they weren't designed to stop a single small ship. Sam slipped the Ghost past their sensors like a shadow. Inside the asteroid, Sergeant Kelly Murphy and Corporal Matt Thompson worked quickly to plant their devices. Kelly was a small woman with blonde hair who had trained as a computer expert before the war. Matt was a big man with steady hands who used to repair mining equipment. "Reprogramming complete," Kelly whispered into her radio. "The mining machines will now produce metal that looks perfect but has tiny flaws. It will take months before anyone notices that their new ships are weaker than they should be." At the same time, Captain Brooks led his strike force to the communication hub at Sigma Prime. This station sent messages between different parts of the Hegemony Empire. Brooks didn't try to destroy it. Instead, his team planted a computer virus that would cause small delays in message transmission. "It's beautiful," said Linda Foster, the communication expert who designed the virus. Linda was a quiet woman with red hair who had worked for Earth's internet companies before the war. "The delays will be random and small. They'll spend months trying to figure out if it's equipment failure or enemy action." The third target was the most dangerous. The shipyard at Titan's Edge built the Hegemony's warships. Lieutenant Amy Watson, now promoted after her heroic fighter pilot actions, led a team of saboteurs onto the station. "Remember, we're not here to blow things up right away," Amy told her team as they snuck through the station's corridors. "We're planting delayed explosives that will go off weeks from now, just as new ships are being launched." The team moved like ghosts through the alien facility. The Hegemony workers were tall, gray creatures with 4 arms who had been conquered centuries ago. They worked without talking, following their programmed routines exactly. They never looked up from their tasks, which made it easy for the humans to plant their devices. But the most important mission was happening in a different part of space. Dr. Stone and Linda Foster had been working together on something that could change everything. They had figured out how to broadcast messages across the entire Hegemony communication network. "Are you sure this will work?" Linda asked as she prepared the transmission equipment. "The virus we planted at Sigma Prime has given us access to their entire network," Amanda replied. "We can send a message to every conquered world in their empire." Linda activated the transmitter. Across 3,000 worlds, a message began playing in hundreds of different languages. It was simple but powerful. "This is Earth calling all conquered peoples of the galaxy. You have been told that resistance is impossible. You have been told that the Hegemony cannot be defeated. We are here to tell you that this is a lie. We are fighting them. We are winning. You are not alone. You do not have to obey. Freedom is possible." The message played for only 30 seconds before Hegemony technicians cut the transmission. But 30 seconds was enough. On the water world of Kepler Prime, the aquatic Kelder stopped their deep-sea mining work and looked up at their overseers for the first time in decades. On the hive world of Nexus 7, the insectoid Threx began talking to each other instead of working in silence. On the energy world of Vega Station, the plasma beings started asking questions about why they had to power Hegemony ships. Fleet Commander Zach Thule received reports from across the Empire. Small acts of rebellion were breaking out everywhere. Workers were slowing down. Some were refusing orders. A few were even sabotaging equipment. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These species have been pacified for centuries. They don't even remember what freedom means." His second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Krelax, studied the reports. "It's the humans, sir. Somehow they've inspired hope across the entire empire." Zach Thule's yellow eyes burned with rage. "Then we will crush that hope. Send word to the High Council. I want every available warship sent to Earth. We will not just conquer this world. We will destroy it so completely that no other species will ever dare to resist us again." But even as he gave the order, Zach Thule felt something he had never experienced before. For the first time in his long military career, he was worried. These humans didn't fight like any enemy he had ever faced. They were unpredictable, creative, and worst of all, they were giving other species dangerous ideas about freedom. The war was no longer just about conquering one small world. It was about the survival of the Hegemony itself. The reports coming into Earth Defense Command were both exciting and terrifying. Admiral Lisa Carter stood in the underground war room, watching displays that showed rebellion breaking out across 17 different star systems. The message that Dr. Stone and Linda Foster had broadcast was working better than anyone had hoped. The Kelder have stopped all deep-sea mining operations on 4 worlds, reported Lieutenant Ben Parker, who had been promoted after his service at Armstrong Base. The Threx abandoned 3 hive ship construction sites. The energy beings at Nexus Prime are disrupting power grids across their entire sector. But the good news came with a price. Captain Nicole Grant's reconnaissance ship had just returned from the edge of the solar system with frightening intelligence. Her face was pale as she delivered her report. "The Hegemony's response fleet is massive," Nicole said, her voice shaking slightly. "Over 600 warships. It's 3 times larger than anything they've ever sent to conquer a single world." Admiral Carter felt her heart sink. Earth's entire military had maybe 200 ships, and most of those were converted cargo vessels, with weapons bolted onto them. Against 600 hegemony warships, humanity didn't stand a chance in a straight fight. "There's more," Nicole continued. "These aren't the same ships we fought before. Our spies in the outer system report that they've been modified. New armor, new weapons, new shields designed specifically to counter our tactics." Dr. Amanda Stone looked up from her computer terminal. She had been analyzing the data from Nicole's reconnaissance mission. "They've learned from our previous attacks. The new ships have anti-fighter defense systems and quantum disruption shields to stop our dimensional mines." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The tactics that had saved Earth before wouldn't work again. The aliens had adapted. President Helen Martinez entered the war room, followed by General Paul Hughes. The president looked older than she had a month ago. The stress of leading humanity through its first interstellar war was showing on her face. "What are our options?" she asked simply. General Hughes spread out tactical maps on the central table. "We have maybe 72 hours before their fleet arrives. Every available ship is being prepared for battle, but we're still outnumbered 3-1 by an enemy with superior technology." "So we surrender?" asked someone from the back of the room. "No," said Admiral Carter firmly. "We fight, but we fight smart." Commander Jake Morrison had been quiet during the briefing, but now he stepped forward. Jake had been promoted to overall fleet coordination after his service at Defense Station Liberty. His experience watching the enemy had given him insights that others missed. "I've been studying their approach patterns," Jake said. "They're coming in the same formation they always use. 3 attack groups, heavy ships in front, support vessels behind. They never change this pattern because it's always worked before." Engineer Tony Clark, who had helped win the first battle with his asteroid mining charges, was working on something new in his workshop on Ceres. Tony was surrounded by components that looked like they belonged in a dozen different machines. "If we can't fight them ship to ship, we need to change the battlefield," Tony muttered to himself as he worked. His latest project was ambitious even by human standards. He was trying to turn the sun itself into a weapon. "The solar magnetic field generators are almost ready," he reported to Admiral Carter over the communication link. "But I need more time to test them." "How much time?" the Admiral asked. "At least a week, maybe 2. "You have 36 hours. Tony wiped sweat from his forehead. "Then we'd better hope this works on the first try." Meanwhile, pilot Jack Turner and engineer Kathy Lewis were working together on the space station orbiting Mercury, the planet closest to the sun. Jack was a veteran pilot with steady nerves and quick reflexes. Kathy was a brilliant engineer who understood solar physics better than anyone else in the system. "The positioning has to be perfect," Kathy explained as she calibrated the solar array satellites. "If we're off by even a few degrees, the magnetic field manipulation won't work." Jack nodded as he programmed the flight paths for the human fleet. "And if the hegemony ships aren't in exactly the right positions when we trigger the solar flare, we'll just be giving them a light show." The plan was incredibly dangerous. No human had ever tried to weaponize a star before. The mathematics were complex. The timing had to be perfect. And if anything went wrong, Earth's entire fleet could be destroyed by their own weapon. But it was their only chance. As the hours counted down, reports kept coming in from across the galaxy. The rebellions that Earth's message had inspired were growing stronger. On some worlds, the conquered species had completely stopped working. On others, they were actively fighting their hegemony overseers. "The Empire is cracking," Dr. Stone told the Admiral. "But they're also getting desperate. Intelligence reports suggest they're planning to make an example of Earth. Complete destruction to show other worlds what happens when you resist." The hegemony fleet was now visible to Earth's long-range sensors. 600 massive warships moving in perfect formation toward the solar system. Fleet Commander Zach Thule was leading the attack personally, determined to end humanity's rebellion, once and for all. "All civilian ships are to evacuate to the outer colonies immediately," President Martinez announced over the planetary communication system. "Military personnel and essential workers only will remain in the inner solar system." But most civilians refused to leave. Cargo ship captains volunteered to join the defense fleet. Asteroid miners brought their industrial equipment to help build weapons. Even the colonists on distant worlds sent what ships they could spare. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of the Defiance, now serving as the flagship of Earth's combined fleet. Through the view screen, he could see dozens of other ships taking position around him. Warships, cargo vessels, mining ships, even passenger liners that had been fitted with whatever weapons could be found. "It's not much of a fleet," said his second-in-command, Lieutenant Amy Watson, who had transferred from her fighter squadron to help coordinate the battle. "No," Ryan agreed, watching more ships arrive to join the formation. "But it's our fleet." The final piece of the plan was the most dangerous. A small group of ships led by Major Steve Collins would have to guide the hegemony fleet into exactly the right position around the sun. This meant flying directly into the path of 600 enemy warships and somehow surviving long enough to lead them where they needed to go. "Remember," Admiral Carter's voice came over the fleet communication system, "we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to do something so crazy that they won't see it coming until it's too late." Commander Morrison watched the tactical display as the enemy fleet entered the outer solar system. The hegemony ships moved with the same confidence they had shown for 1,000 years. They expected this to be like every other conquest: quick, brutal, and decisive. They had no idea that humanity was about to turn their own star against them. "All ships, this is Admiral Carter," came the final transmission. "Today we're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for every species that dreams of freedom. We're fighting to show the galaxy that tyrants can be defeated. Whatever happens next, remember that freedom is worth any price." The hegemony fleet was 3 hours away from Earth. The battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy was about to begin. The hegemony war fleet entered Earth's solar system like a storm of metal and death. 600 massive warships moved in perfect formation, their dark hulls gleaming with weapon ports and shield generators. Fleet Commander Zach Thule stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small human fleet ahead of him. "Pathetic," he said to his officers. "They have barely 200 ships, most of them converted cargo vessels. This will be over in minutes." But Major Steve Collins flying. His small patrol ship Ranger had other plans. Steve knew the alien formations better than anyone after studying them for months. He also knew that the aliens always followed the same attack patterns. They would try to surround Earth's fleet and destroy it quickly. "All ships, follow my lead," Steve broadcast to the human fleet. "We're going to give them exactly what they expect." The human ships began retreating toward the sun, firing their weapons as they fell back. To the aliens, it looked like a desperate last stand. The hegemony fleet followed, eager to finish the battle quickly. Captain Ryan Brooks watched, his tactical display on the bridge of the Defiance. The alien ships were taking the bait perfectly. They were spreading out around the human fleet, forming a wide circle just like their battle manuals required. "They're moving into position," he reported to Admiral Carter. "Another few minutes, and they'll be exactly where we need them." On the space station near Mercury, engineer Kathy Lewis watched the solar magnetic field readings with sweat dripping down her face. The array of satellites around the sun was ready, but the timing had to be perfect. One mistake and the solar flare would miss the alien fleet completely. "Solar activity is building," she reported to pilot Jack Turner, who was coordinating the satellite positions. "We'll have one chance at this." Jack's hands moved quickly over his controls, adjusting the positions of dozens of satellites floating near the sun. Each one was equipped with powerful magnetic field generators that could influence the star's natural energy patterns. Satellites, In position, Jack confirmed. Ready to trigger on your command. The battle around Earth was getting more intense. The alien ships had superior weapons and shields, but the human fleet was faster and more unpredictable. Captain Nicole Grant led her stealth squadron in hit-and-run attacks that confused the alien formations. Lieutenant Amy Watson, now commanding her own destroyer called the Falcon, used every trick she had learned as a fighter pilot. Her ship darted between the massive alien vessels, firing missiles and then disappearing behind asteroids before the aliens could respond. But the human fleet was taking heavy losses. For every alien ship they damaged, they lost 3 of their own. The converted cargo ships were brave, but no match for hegemony warships. We can't hold them much longer, Commander Jake Morrison reported from his command ship. Whatever we're going to do, it has to be now. Engineer Tony Clark was monitoring the alien positions from his station on Ceres. His modifications to the solar array were working perfectly, but the alien fleet had to be in exactly the right formation for the plan to work. Just a little closer, he muttered, watching the tactical display. Come on, take the bait. Fleet Commander Zach Thule was growing impatient. The human resistance was stronger than expected, but his fleet was still winning. Soon, Earth would be destroyed and this rebellion would be over. Move all ships to final attack positions, he ordered. Prepare to destroy their homeworld. The hegemony fleet moved closer to the sun, surrounding the human ships in a perfect circle. It was exactly the formation they had used to conquer thousands of worlds. It was also exactly what humanity needed. Now! Admiral Carter shouted over the communication system. Kathy Lewis pressed the activation button. Around the sun, dozens of satellites began generating powerful magnetic fields. The star's natural magnetic field lines twisted and focused, building up incredible energy. Jack Turner guided the magnetic field patterns with precision that would have been impossible for anyone else. The sun's magnetic field began to concentrate toward one specific point in space, right where the alien fleet was positioned. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the sun erupted. A massive solar flare burst from the star's surface, but this wasn't a natural flare. The magnetic field manipulation had focused all that energy into a directed beam of pure stellar fire. The concentrated power of Earth's sun lanced out toward the alien fleet. The hegemony ships had shields that could stop any known weapon. They had armor that could survive the explosion of planets, but they had never faced the raw power of a star turned into a weapon. The solar flare struck the alien formation with the force of 1 billion nuclear bombs. Ship after ship simply vanished, vaporized by temperatures that matched the core of the sun. The alien shields were useless against such incredible energy. Fleet Commander Zach Thule watched in horror as his mighty fleet was destroyed in seconds. Ships that had conquered galaxies were reduced to glowing particles of metal. In 30 seconds, 600 hegemony warships became nothing but cosmic dust. Only a few dozen alien ships on the edges of the formation survived, and they immediately fled into hyperspace, carrying news of the impossible defeat back to hegemony space. The human fleet floated in stunned silence, watching the debris of the alien armada drift past them. They had done something that no other species in galactic history had ever accomplished. They had completely destroyed a hegemony war fleet. Did we really just do that? Captain Brooks asked over the communication system. We did, Admiral Carter replied, her voice filled with amazement. We actually did it. But the victory was bigger than just one battle. Across the galaxy, news of Earth's triumph spread faster than the hegemony could control. On world after world, conquered species rose up against their oppressors. The empire that had ruled for 1,000 years began to collapse in days. The aquatic Kelder seized control of their ocean worlds. The insectoid Threx took over their hive ships and turned them against hegemony forces. The energy beings of Nexus Prime cut power to entire sectors of the empire. Within a month, the galactic hegemony had lost half its territory. The remaining hegemony forces retreated to their core worlds, no longer the mighty empire that had terrorized the galaxy. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Admiral Carter stood on the observation deck of the newly built Solar Defense Station. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the orbital platforms that now surrounded Earth's solar system. Commander Morrison joined her, carrying a report from the outer sensors. Another hegemony ship just passed through the checkpoint, he said. That's the 15th one this week. Let me guess, Carter said with a smile. They're fleeing to the outer rim, trying to get as far from Earth as possible. Exactly. They submit to inspection, prove they're not carrying weapons, and we let them pass, just like any other refugee ship. The solar defense perimeter was Earth's new policy. Any ship could pass through human space, but only if they followed strict rules. No weapons, no threats, and absolutely no interference with Earth or its allies. Dr. Amanda Stone entered the observation deck, carrying a tablet full of messages from across the galaxy. Her face was bright with excitement. More communications from liberated worlds, she reported. The Kelder Republic wants to establish trade relations. The Free Threx Collective is offering to share their shipbuilding technology. Even some former hegemony worlds are asking for help establishing democratic governments. Admiral Carter nodded. Earth had become something it never expected to be. Not just another planet in the galaxy, but a symbol of hope and freedom that inspired entire civilizations. Any word from the hegemony core worlds? Carter asked. They're still there, but they're not expanding anymore, Amanda replied. According to our intelligence, they're too busy dealing with internal rebellions to threaten anyone else. Commander Morrison looked out at the stars, thinking about how much had changed. You know what the best part is? They can't come back here. Earth is the one place in the galaxy that the hegemony can't touch. And that's how it's going to stay, Admiral Carter said firmly. In the distance, another ship approached the solar defense perimeter. It was a hegemony vessel running away from the chaos that humanity had helped create. The ship submitted to inspection, proved it was harmless, and was allowed to pass. Earth had won more than a war. It had won the right to exist free, and it had given that same freedom to half the galaxy. The message was clear to anyone who might threaten humanity's home. Earth was off limits, and the humans would fight to protect not just themselves, but Tante, anyone who dreamed of freedom. The galaxy would never be the same.